Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on doing business in India. I am Caroline Monnier, area manager for the Asian market at hub.brussels, which is the trade agency for business support for Brussels companies to export their goods and services abroad. And today we'll speak especially about the Indian markets. We have two of our trade commissioners today, Mr. Olivier Costa, who is Trade Commissioner at interim right now for our Chennai office, and Mr. Hubert Goffinet, our Trade Commissioner based in New Delhi. They will both give a short introduction word on the Indian market and the current economic and social political situation. Then we will move on to the opportunities and regulatory landscape presented by Mr. Manan Agarwal, who is the managing partner at Crayman Consultants, and Dr. Renaud Bertrand-Simons, manager EU desk at the same Crayman Consultants, which is a consultancy agency based in India and helping you out with your businesses, whether it comes to tax or to regulation in general. They will introduce themselves as well. Then we will move on to the customs aspects of doing business in India. That will be presented by Mr. Stefan Kessen, who is the customer officer at the Belgian Embassy of New Delhi, and who will end up with some closing word by Mr. Rajiv Dhawan, which is the chairman of the Belgium-Luxembourg Business Association based in New Delhi. I will just give you a short word on Hub Brussels support in India. So as I mentioned, we have two offices, one in Delhi, one in Chennai, but we are also represented by a Mumbai office with Emmanuel Timmermans, who is also actually out of office, so she couldn't join us. But Hubert, who will speak about both offices. They are supporting you for finding prospects and getting information on the market. Their services are totally free for Brussels companies. They also work with me on economic missions. That was pre-COVID. We organized some missions or some presence at some trade shows in India. And then last point, which is financial support. So Hub Brussels itself doesn't provide financial support, but it is provided by the Brussels region through the Ministry of Economy and Employment. You see the link of the website right on the screen. So if you need to know more information about what support is available for you, please go on the website. You'll see that there are various topics as prospection or presence at a trade fair, public tender, hiring local staff, or even redesigning a website. So for that, you have to log in and fill up a form. Then when you applied, you can spend your own budget on your prospection or trade show, whatever, and ask for a reimbursement of your fees to the Brussels region. They can reimburse up to 75% of total fees. So that's it for the Hub Brussels quick introduction. Now let's move on to the introduction of the Indian market by Olivier Costa and Hubert Goffinet. Olivier, I will let you the floor right now, so you can speak a little bit about the Chennai office, and then Hubert will move on to the Indian market in general. Olivier, the floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Chrysaline, for passing me the word. So on behalf of the Chennai Trade Office, I'm very happy to welcome you here. The Trade Office in Chennai consisted of Swati and Dharani, also present today, and together we are here to help you to develop your activities in the southern part of India. Myself, I'm in charge of different competencies at Brussels, and since the 1st of January, I've taken over the responsibility of the Chennai office. I'm doing that ad interim and most probably for the rest of the year. But for next year, I will for sure have someone else replacing me in this position. So together with Hubert, we're covering for Brussels companies the Indian market, and we are here to inform you on the opportunities, also to assist you, if possible, in economic missions. Of course, the situation is quite complicated, quite serious at the time. For the time being in India, you've all read through the news what is happening for now. So it's maybe not the right time to considering traveling to India, but saying that India remains a very important market for Brussels and IWEX, and we would like to encourage more companies to develop their activities in the Indian market. If it's not now, it could be for the future, but this time could be put appropriately to prepare your entry to the market. And so collecting information, prepare yourself, deciding on which part of the country you would like to develop your activities, as well as identifying potential Indian partners. We are there to help you in this, and preparation is key when entering a market. So this is maybe the most appropriate time to do it. And once you are ready, then hopefully next year you could consider going in the field. So this is for me as a few introductory words. Hubert knows much more than myself the Indian market, and will provide you with fruitful information in this regard. Yeah, the floor is yours, Hubert. Thank you.
Hubert, we don't hear you.
Sorry.
No problem.
No, it's sorry for that. So thank you, Chrysaline, thank you, Olivia, for the introduction. I will stay quite brief. I would like just to give you a few indication on the Indian market, knowing that also our partners from Kremen Consultant will also present briefly some of the opportunities. Something I would like just to mention before starting the presentation, a short presentation, is this sentence from Prof. John Robinson, who has been cited by Amartya Sen, who is in 2005, who is the Nobel laureate for economy, saying that the frustrating thing with India is that whatever you can rightly say about India, the opposite is also true. So this is my sentence to start, knowing that few of the elements I can present today could also have a contradictory aspect sometimes, so it could be tricky.
Hubert, just if you can
Yes.
enlarge the screen. We don't see it.
Okay. Let me check. Like this?
Yeah, right now it's good. Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So very, very important thing, even if the sanitary conditions are not good at the moment, still India is a fastest growing economy worldwide, and the government would like to reach a 5 trillion economy by 2025, and has launched a lot of different initiatives and public policies to help in improving and reforming the economic system. That's one of the important things for us is, of course, seeing the improvement in terms of ease of doing business. So now India is ranked at the 63rd position, from 130 in 2016, which seen the improvement, which is quite important, and they aim to reach the top 50 by 2022. The government also did a lot of different initiatives, as I said, on the financial and economical aspect. I won't enter into the details about the FDI policy or the GST scheme, which has allowed, to demonetize a bit the economy. Neither about the competitive tax regime, because it will be presented by your colleague from Kreman. What I would like to mention here is the important new initiative that the government launched around the local production in India. So maybe you have heard the term making in India. During the pandemic, the government also thought it was good to go a bit further than just making in India, but more to be self-reliant. And this new mantra of being self-reliant, which is one of the results of the crisis, the pandemic, is the dependence of India for the production of API or pharma ingredient. So if we have seen this shift, it's also accompanied by a lot of different incentives, and it will be presented later on. So as you see, the government is launching a lot of different initiatives, and it comes then to the different sector where you can consider that all the different sector could bring you opportunities, whatever the business you are in. So I'm taking few of them like this just to give you the landscape. So it's the second largest smartphone market worldwide, growing at 11% yearly. Again, here the government has put a lot of different incentives to manufacture more, chips, smartphones, etc., from the electronic industry directly in India. So it's a very fast-growing sector. It's still the second largest steel producer. It's the third largest market for healthcare. Most than probably you know that India is the first vaccine producer worldwide in terms of quantity. So of course the pharma sector is an important sector for companies, Belgian, Brussels-based companies active in health. It's on the infrastructure aspect. India is the third largest domestic aviation market. A lot of different investment have been done recently to improve the infrastructures in transport, whether it's about high-speed railways, roads, airport, and others. So infrastructure is definitely a huge sector that will know a boom in the coming years. So for example, in 2019, the sector attracted $14.9 billion of investment, but it's expected to reach $740 billion by 2022, which showing a bit the increase of the infrastructures project that are launched into the country, either at the central level or at the local level in the different states. So that was really to show you the broad picture in terms of opportunities. Of course, we can go much deeper into details of each niche with you, depending on your services or products, and we can have a better look if it match with the opportunities that a sector is showing in India. So a few basic tips to the business in India. I don't enter into cultural aspect of doing business. I would be more than happy to share my knowledge or my experience on that when we will have the opportunity to relaunch physical contacts with people, of course. But first of all, what is really important and really crucial to be understood is that India is a very diverse country. There is 29 states, 7 union territories, each state should be considered almost as a market in itself. Sometimes the regulation will differ from state to state. Sometimes also the consumer base will be quite different from one state to another, and such kind of diversity in terms of economical patterns. Actually, you can also see such kind of diversity in food, in climate, but also in local business habits. So India is almost a continent in itself, and it will take time to reach the entire market. Second very important aspect for me is the price. The Indian market is a price sensitive market, which means that even if your products or services are of high quality, the price will be always where the decision will be made when it comes to do a business case. So the price is important, and also the purchasing power per capita, it's quite low. Of course, the middle class is growing very rapidly, but still some product could be difficult to find a market at the moment, even if I just showed that plenty of opportunities in different sectors. And last but not least, and probably it's the most important things, you have to choose the right partner. The right partner is the one that will actually run your business probably in India, but also accompany, and accompany you in all the regulatory issues that you will have to face in developing your business in India. And you will have to find him through the business spectrum from banking and finance, suppliers, or marketing. This is something where, of course, or institutional partner like the BLBA, the chamber, could help us in finding the right person that could actually be recommended to you to accompany your business case. So what can we do for you? It has been said by Chrysaline and Olivier already. So very quickly, we organize networking activities. For example, we are planning to have each year a tourism mission towards outbound tourism operators in India. So, for example, if you are in that sector, of course, it could be of interest for you. But we also develop a proposal for the renewable energy sector and the pharma sector. So basically, each year there should be normally one trade show or trade mission organized in those sectors, and it will differ the place where it will happen. We help in identifying the right prospect. As I said, we dress a list of dedicated contact. We can also provide credit reports on specific organization you would like to have more information on. And of course, we help in building institutional relations, and that could be done with the Indian authorities, but also with the EU delegation and or the EU initiative that are done for collaborative R&D project, or for the other business dialogue. If you have, one disruptive technology you would like to showcase to local or to central Indian authorities, it's important to activate those institutional relation, and we can definitely help you in this. And we provide also some business intelligence services, such as sectorial evolution, overviews of the regulation, etc. So last thing I would like to say are things that we are not doing. So for example, and it happens quite regularly that we receive requests from Brussels-based companies for identifying a sourcing partner. So you should know that actually it's not in our mandate to find a sourcing partner, neither to help Indian exporter to export to the EU. So that should be quite noted on your end, of course. We do not review any administrative or legal documents. We provide you the right context to do so, and we do not intervene in visa procedures. And and it has been said, we do not charge for support. I will close my speech here and hand over the word to Mr. Renaud Simons, who is a Belgian national, who is heading the EU desk at Kreman Consultant, and they will, and with his colleague Manan, who is managing the company, they will explain you how you can actually get a more detailed accompaniment when it comes to really concretely enter the Indian market. And I hand the word to you, Renaud, please.
Thanks, Hubert. Thanks a lot. Thanks for this opportunity. So my name is Renaud Simons. I'm a business consultant based in Italy, and I'm also responsible for the European desk of Kreman. As Hubert anticipated to you, obviously Renaud Simons does not sound Italian. Indeed, I'm Belgian. I'm from Namur. I'm French speaking. So if it can also help you, if you feel more comfortable with French to make business in India, please give me a call and we can talk in French. Now I will leave the floor to Manan Agarwal. Manan is managing partner of Kreman Consulting in India. Kreman Consulting is one of the top most important consulting firm in India and is specialized in assisting and supporting international investors doing business in India. So Manan, you have the challenge to give an overview in only 20 minutes. Won't be easy. Good luck and thanks for your speech.
Thank you so much, Renaud, for the kind introduction. I hope my slide is visible.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So a very good afternoon to all the participants. I represent Kreman Consultants LLP, an accounting and advisory firm helping foreign companies set up and do business in India. Without any delay, I will jump to the topic, and ideally this is a topic which requires me to deliberate for at least 2-3 hours. However, I'll try to condense it into a short 20 minutes presentation. Let's see about the existing Belgian companies in India. So Belgium was among the first European nations to have business relationships with India since 1947, which is the year when India got freedom from colonial rule. And there are currently about 160 Belgian companies in India. And in 2019, the total FDI from European nations stood at 7.03 billion, out of which 6% approximately was from Belgium, and the majority was from Netherlands. So there's a long way to go for Belgium in terms of the FDI into India. So regarding the situation after COVID-19, I mean, while we all pray for well-being of humanity, we know that every disaster brings along with it an opportunity in disguise. And post-COVID, India's economic position in the global market is likely to get a boost. We are a young country. We got freedom only in 1947, and the economic liberalization in India started only in 1991. That is about 30 years before from today, when the Indian economy was opened to foreign investment, or FDI, foreign direct investment as we call it. Since then, FDI has created more than 10 million jobs in India, which is more than population of some countries globally. In 2013, India stood 15th globally in terms of FDI. In 2014, we were 9th. 2015 saw a sharp turn when India overtook China and US as a top destination for FDI globally. In first half of 2015 alone, India received a whopping FDI of about $31 billion compared to about $27 or $28 billion received by US and China each. Why should a Belgian company do business in India? Well, India is both a production market as well as a consumer market. India represents around 18%, 1/8 of the global population. So in a way, I could say that it represents 18% of the consumption, global consumption as well. And also India is a good producers market. And why do I say that? We know that there are two important aspects of production. One is land, especially for conventional businesses, and second is manpower. There has been a growth in terms of availability of good land and infrastructure in the last 10 to 15 years, especially due to upcoming industrial townships in outskirts of tier 1 cities and in the mainstream tier 2 cities, where the land as of today is much cheaper than the main metropolitan cities. And yes, the most important part is the manpower. We have a large English speaking population, an average literacy rate of about 75%. In some states it's more than 96%. We are one of the largest producers of engineers globally, and we have a young population. So around 65% of the Indian population is below the age of 35 years. The average age of an Indian, I have some statistics in the back of my mind, the average age of an Indian is 28 years, that of a Chinese is 38 years, that of a Belgian is 43 years, and that of a Japanese is 58 years. So I would say India is the future of tomorrow when it comes to a young and vibrant working population. And also India enjoys an advantageous strategic position within South Asia. India is a peninsular region, country surrounded three sides by water, and hence there is easy accessibility to both sea and air equally. This slide gives a snapshot of the top 10 sectors and countries from which India has been receiving FDI. Mauritius and Singapore, these are considered as tax havens in India. So although you see the 50% of FDI coming in India from these two countries mainly, the ultimate beneficial owners, I would say, or the brand owners are none other than Europeans, Americans, Japanese, and Koreans. Regarding Make in India, since it has already been talked about, I won't deliberate much on it, but it's a major initiative launched by Government of India in 2014 to facilitate manufacture in India. And so far it has proved to be a decent measure in this direction. I'll take a couple of minutes to highlight the tax benefits and other schemes launched by government in last couple of years. So the most important among the tax benefits is that reduction of effective corporate tax rate for new manufacturing companies to 17.16%, which is one of the lowest globally. If you set up a new manufacturing company in India, the total tax that you need to pay is 17% of the profits, that's all. And also government has abolished an age-old dividend distribution tax of 15%, and there has been a certain reduction in tax payable based on book profits of a company from 18.5% to 15%. And of course there are many schemes under the customs and GST laws of India. The average, I would say very broadly speaking, the average custom duty in India is 10%, and the GST rate is 18%. So there are many benefits, especially if you're manufacturing in India and exporting outside. There are various benefits in terms of customs and GST. Government in April last year, 2020, launched 3 schemes for encouraging electronics manufacturing in India. The first one is SPECS, or Scheme for Promotion of Manufacturing Electronic Components in India, wherein government gives a reimbursement of 25% of capital expenditure to units investing in manufacture of electronic components in India. Then there has been a production-linked incentive scheme, PLI scheme, for the telecom industry, where incentive of around 4 to 6% of incremental sales over each year is given to such units which are in telecom sector. And there is the EMC 2.0 scheme, or the electronic manufacturers cluster scheme, which is mainly meant to encourage quality infrastructure with common facilities for electronic companies. Regarding the other sectoral benefits and self-reliant India and the state-based incentives, as Mr. Hubert also mentioned, that so India is many countries within a single country, and each of the states in India are healthily competing with each other to lure foreign investment, and so So because of this reason, there are various benefits which varies from state to state as well. FDI policy. What is FDI policy? The FDI policy is a framework on foreign investment set out by any country's government for that matter. FDI not only means monetary investment on return on it. I would like to highlight a little on the practical aspect here. FDI means, in my view, embracing and exploring a new country, a new jurisdiction in entirety as a package, including both its opportunities and challenges. And such opportunities and challenges can be in different forms, including technology, processes, methodologies, and most importantly, as I see it, culture. If a foreign company wants to do business in India, honestly speaking, if the objective is to make quick buck, quick profits and exit within 2-3 years, then in my view, honestly, India is not the right destination. But if a foreign company can stay committed in India for at least 5 to 7 years, and its products or services are accepted by the Indian masses, then there is no looking back for the company. And this is something which has been repeated and established time and again since by many foreign companies which have been doing business in India since 1991. There are many brands which we Indians think today are Indian, but actually they are foreign brands. Many Indians even don't know that. So that's the picture of that's what I mean is that's what I think is the real meaning of FDI. And coming back to the legal side of it, there are two routes for a foreign investor to enter the Indian market. One is the government approval route, and second is the automatic route. The automatic route means most of the sectors in India, more than 90% industries and sectors in India, do not require prior approval from the government of India. So you can straight away start with setting up your legal entity in India. You do not need prior approval from any government authority. There are few sensitive sectors, around 10 of them, such as defense, mining, print media, broadcasting, private sector banking, etc., which are sensitive, and so the government has some norms. So certain there are different rules attached to it. I won't go into details, but prior approval from the government of India is required for obvious reasons to set up an entity in that line of business in India. Now coming to the entry routes available for a foreign investor. If a Belgian company, or for that matter any foreign company, wants to set up a business in India, it has mainly two options: either to set up a corporate entity or to set up a non-corporate entity. What is the difference? A corporate entity in India is legally, in the eyes of law, it is an Indian company itself. It is a separate, legal, distinct identity. I'm talking only in terms of law here. So that is what a corporate entity means. While a non-corporate entity means extension. Legally, it is an extension of the parent company in India, and hence it is treated as a foreign company in respect of the regulations and legal requirements in India. So if I were to put it in very layman's terms, if I am a human being, my corporate entity would be maybe my son or my daughter, but a non-corporate entity for me would be my limbs, my hands, legs. So these are the two main forms through which a Belgian company can set up an entity in India. There are two forms of legal corporate entity. One is a wholly owned subsidiary or a private limited company, wherein the 100% ownership belongs to the parent Belgian company. And a joint venture is a private limited company only, with the difference that it has a local partner in India. And or a limited liability partnership is relatively a new concept in India. It's not exactly new. It was introduced in 2008, but compared to the traditional private limited company form, it is fairly a new concept in India. And in terms of a non-corporate entity, a Belgian company can either set up a liaison office or a branch office or a project office. I will touch upon these forms very briefly in my next slides. A liaison office or a representative office, as the name suggests, it can only represent or do liaising activity for the Belgian company in India, and this form of entity is most suited for a Belgian company which wants to explore the Indian market for its products or services. So usually the life of an LO, as we call it commonly, is 2 to 3 years, and it can only act as a communication channel between the parent company and the local customers or the agents in India. It cannot do any commercial or business activity in India. A branch office is an upgraded version of the liaison office, I would say. A branch office is entitled to do commercial activities in India as well, in addition to acting as a communication channel for the parent company. And in a sense, branch office usually can do any and all activities in India which the parent company does, except few prohibited activities like trading or manufacturing or construction infrastructure. Those kind of activities a branch office cannot do, but otherwise there is a general permission for the branch office to do any and every kind of activity that the parent company does outside India. A project office is more suited in case of infrastructure or engineering, procurement, construction development companies, where there is a certain life of the project. For example, if a company has been appointed to make a highway in India, for example, a subcontract or anything of that sort, then project office is the most suited form of presence in India, and it can be set up specific to the particular project only. One project office can do only that project. If there is any other project which the Belgian company wants to do in India, it has to set up another project office. A wholly owned subsidiary is a private limited company, and it is the activities of a wholly owned subsidiary, or a WOS. It can do all those activities which are mentioned in its charter documents, a memorandum of association or articles of association, as we call in India, except of course the prohibited activities as per the FDI guidelines. That cannot be done, but other than that, anything can be done in a WOS, and this is the most widespread and common form for a foreign company to do business in India. An LLP is a hybrid version between a corporate firm, WOS, or private limited company, and a partnership firm in India. So it gives more flexibility in terms of running your operations in India, because the law is relatively newer, and there are many activities which the LLP can do, which a company may or may not be able to do, or can do with certain restrictions. So this is a case-to-case analysis which we need to check basis on what are the activities that a Belgian company wants to do in India, what are its plans for India, what is the expected capital investment it wants to do. So all these factors help in determining which is the best form of presence in India, and there is no straight-cut answer that one particular form is good for all the companies. That is something which is not possible. This slide gives a brief snapshot of the comparison between the different forms. Due to paucity of time, I will not go through it in much details. I'll halt for a few seconds for you to have a look, and then I will come to the taxation side.
You have 5 minutes max for the taxation, madam.
Yeah, sure. Coming to the taxes in India, essentially there are two kinds of taxes. One is direct tax, and other is indirect tax. To keep it very simplified, direct tax is essentially nothing but income tax or corporate tax that needs to be paid on profits earned in India, whereas indirect tax represents mainly GST, or goods and services tax, and custom duty. And these are taxes which essentially can be passed on to the customer. In other words, these do not form a part of the cost of the of a foreign investor, but yes, of course, direct tax is a cost because it is payable on profits of the company and cannot be passed on to the ultimate consumer. Regarding income tax, the tax year in India runs from 1st April to 31st March, and the corporate tax rate in India very broadly ranges from 15% to 40% on profits, depending on A, what are the activities that the Belgian company wants to do in India, and B, whether the profits generated in India are sought to be repatriated back to the Belgium entity, parent company, or not. In case the profits are to be used for the Indian operations only, then this 40% gets further reduced and the effective tax rate comes to around 25 to 26%. So in other words, very brief, manufacturing operations in India, the tax rate is around 17%, which is 15% plus surcharge and cess. In case of non-manufacturing activities, it is around 25%. And if the profits are sought to be repatriated back to Belgium, then the taxability is around 10 to 15%. So this is the bifurcation of the total tax liability that a Belgian company needs to pay in India. And yes, very importantly, there is something called foreign tax credit. So whatever the taxes are paid in India, a Belgian company is entitled to claim a credit of those taxes against their Belgian tax liability. This is as a result of the double taxation avoidance agreement which India has with Belgium. The GST, it's a tax on supply of goods and services. The standard rate of GST in India is 18%. There are different slabs, but mainly it's 18% on most of the goods and services. These are the key compliances in India and also our service offerings, which any Belgian company needs to do in India to be legally compliant, to be on the right side of law. So accounting, bookkeeping, payroll, social security benefits in India, then audit, corporate law, company law compliances. In terms of tax compliances, an annual tax return needs to be filed in India. Withholding tax requirements are there which need to be complied with. Personal income tax. So usually foreign companies send 1% from their home country to India, who is the expatriate working as a managing director or the engineer in India. He needs to file his own personal tax returns. There are compliances attached to that. Transfer pricing, very importantly, for intercompany transactions between the Belgian parent company, the Indian entity, and any other overseas group company of the main parent company. And GST laws in India. The foreign exchange laws are very important because any company having foreign investment in India has to abide by the Reserve Bank of India's guidelines. And of course, there are certain other registrations and compliances which are business specific that vary from case to case. So that is about us. I have tried to keep it as short as I could. I hope I've been able to communicate what I wanted to. Our contact details are on this slide. I'm happy to answer any question that you might have in this regard. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks to you, Manan. Thank you so much. Please.
Now, because we are a little beyond schedule, I will pass the floor to Stefan Kessen for his presentation on the custom aspects of doing business in India. And do not hesitate if you have any question to put them on the question box, and you will, as Manan mentioned, receive all the presentation after the end of the webinar. So Stefan, the floor is yours.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. So thank you, Ms. Monnier and hub Brussels, for giving me the opportunity to address some of the topics to be considered regarding customs procedures when your companies are thinking about exporting to India. I'm in India for 6 months now. I have 4 major responsibilities. One of them is giving economic support to companies, Belgian companies and Indian companies who think about exporting bilaterally. So my presentation today has to be seen in that capacity. The presentation I prepared is very brief. It just gives a general idea of things you would have to bear in mind when you plan to export your products to India. But I want to stress this already now, please, after this event, whenever you feel the need, do reach out to me so we can analyze your logistics and determine how to proceed the most efficient to see how you can start exporting your products to India. So my first slides will be the overview of the things I have prepared. So as you can see, it will be the import process high level. We talk shortly about the HS codes, and I also touch on the duties and the VAT, or as it is called in India, the GST. So very short, briefly, and high level overview of the import process when you start exporting to India. So you can see when you ship, or of course it can also be a plane, your products to India, the people from the vessel or the airplane, they have to give certain notification to the Indian customs. The Indian customs, they are the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, and the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. As was mentioned by Mr. Agarwal, indeed, customs and GST are both indirect taxes, so that is why there is the I and CBIC. So the vessel or the plane, they have to give arrival notice by the Import General Manifest. This has nothing to do with anybody of your companies, but it's just a short overview of the process. And after that, all the details of the goods that are on board of the ship or the plane are declared to customs. They will normally grant inward entry, and then all goods are given to a custodian. Now the custodian, this is a person who is approved by customs to keep an eye on your goods until they are cleared by the customs authorities. Now the most important party when you export to India will be the importer. This doesn't necessarily mean this will be your end client, but at some point there will be somebody who will take responsibility to assist you in import the goods and see what all the things that you require when you want to export your goods or import them to India. He will have to do certain checks and see, is there a need for an import permit? Is there a need for a license by DGFT, the Department of the General and Foreign Trade? Do we need an import permit? Do we need something from the Food Safety Authority? Are there specific international standards, the Bureau of Indian Standards, quality standards that we need to adhere to? These are all things that the importer will have to check before you export your goods to India. Lots of times the importer will work together with the CHA. This is a customs house agent. These are the people who actually have the electronic connections with the customs authorities, and they will have to send in your file, your BOE. This is the bill of entry. This is the main import declaration document that you need to present to customs electronically by EDI communication for clearance. And whenever you want to file this bill of entry, there are certain documents that you will have to need a hand on. You will need an IEC code. This is managed by the importer. You will have to present a bill of loading or an airway bill. You will have to present a commercial invoice and also a letter of credits. Remember, whenever it's about food or beverages, always the Food Standards Authority of India will play a role. Now, based on the HS code, and I will touch upon that subject in my next slides, based on the HS code, or as it is called in India, the ITC codes, another parental or partner government agency might have a look or a saying in your importing goods. This means, for instance, if you want to export meat, you will have to get in touch to get an import permit from the Department of Animal Health and Dairy. So based on the HS code, the system IceGate will determine who of the other parental or partner government agencies might also need to be consulted before you receive an NOC. That is a no objection certificate. Without that, you will never be able to clear the goods. When one of those other government agencies provide you with this NOC, this no objection certificate, then inspection by customs will be done. This can be an examination and or an assessment. Then they will give you an out of charge. And based on this out of charge, your custodian, the people who were given charge of your goods, they will get a gate pass to which they can get the goods delivered by them, and then your importer or your client can collect the goods from the port or the airport where the goods are. So this is a very short, high-level overview of how an import process actually works when exporting to India. Now, in my previous slide, I touched upon the word HS code, and whenever you will have to declare some goods for export or import, you will always have to say, oh, we are not talking about apples. We say it's 08081000. Why is that? Because internationally, all countries, all customs authorities, they have to speak the same language in order to make sure that the same goods are classified and treated the same. So it's a kind of a create a level playing field, but then on the goods level. So this was already created in the 1980s by the World Customs Organization, and it's now an international product nomenclature, which consists of 21 sections, which are divided into 97 chapters. Now, the first 6 digits, the 080810, for instance, for apples, these are used internationally on the same level. So when you say in Belgium, it is 080810, also in India, this ITC code, the Indian tariff code, will also exist and also will say it's about apples, pears, quinces, and fresh. But it's the national codes, the 2 or the 4 or 6 following digits, they will decide how much will be the basic customs duties, what will be the requirements to make sure you can export the goods. Do you need a certificate? Do I need a permit? Do I need to adhere to standards? These are all based on the 8 to 10 digits. So whenever you contact me and you want to make sure I give you the detailed information regarding what will your products need and what will they need to pay in duties, please try to provide me the 8-digit codes. Now, something very important, of course, like was mentioned by my colleague, Mr. Goffinet, India is a price-based economy. So one of the things that will set your price on the Indian market will be, of course, how much duties will I have to pay. Now, I shortly will try to enlighten how these duties and the GST, the goods and service tax, are calculated. So once again, it's based always on the 8-digit code. You will not be able to find basic customs duties for a 6-digit HS code. So you will always start with the 8-digit code, and then you can consult them online on IceGate or the Customs Information and Compliance Portal, CIP. And when you then enter your 8-digit code, you will find the basic customs duty, the social welfare surcharge, and the IGST percentages. Now, how are they calculated? In customs, we always talk about a customs value. This is already determined in 1975 by the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs. So this is internationally adhered to. The invoice is not your customs value. The customs value is your invoice value plus some additional costs until the border. So let's say, for instance, that you have an invoice of €1,000, and to be able to transport your container to India, you will have to pay €100, but you also want to insure your goods, and let's say it's €50. Then your customs value or your accessible value will be 1,000 plus 100 plus 50, so it's €1,150. This will be your value on which customs duty will be calculated. Then in our example, customs duties, for instance, were 10%. Always there will be social welfare surcharge, just an extra levy that the Indian authorities have implemented 2 years ago to pay for some extra costs to fund the economic prospects of the country. And then when you have the accessible value plus the customs duty and the social welfare surcharge, that amount, that is your basis for your GST. So when you take all these in consideration, you can say this is my landed value when I export my products for €1,000 invoice. At the end, it will be a landed value of 1,500. Sorry, I switched my screen. So the landed value for €1,000, you see, already adds up to €1,500. So once again, please, any queries, please contact me in advance. I kept this very shortly because I can talk on all these subjects for many hours or days even, but I don't want to hassle you with all these details. It's very important to know and to keep in mind that although sometimes the customs duties, they may seem very high, there is many times also the possibility to have exemptions on these duties. And in fact, like Mr. Agarwal told us, the basic customs duties, the average is indeed 12%, but they range from 0% to 150%. And the second important thing that you have to consider is, please get in touch with me, but also with the people from the trade commissioners from Delhi and Chennai and Mumbai, because the importer will play a very, very key role when you approach customs, but because they will decide what will need to be done, what airport or what port do we need to use, where do they have special capacities to handle my kind of specific product that I want to export from Belgium. So all these things, they are determined by the importer as well. So now it's my pleasure to give the final closing word to Mr. Dawan from our Belgian Luxembourg Business Association for his vision on doing business in India.
Thank you, Stefan. Thank you. That was very interesting, for everyone, I suppose. And I also want to say thanks, first of all, to Chrysaline and to Bear for extending this invite. And I think when I have seen the way this seminar, the webinar has been done in short 1 hour, it covers quite a bit. And the presentation from Anand, from Renaud Bertrand, and as well as from Stefan, and I think it's really good. I just want to give few overall comments, which I think is very important to re-emphasize whenever we talk about India. And probably I think the best way to see is, which probably has also been mentioned, by some speaker, in the course of our discussion today. We are a country which is going to be about 700 million smartphone users. In the next maybe 5 to 7 years, they're going to be plus 100 airports. So that means we're going to talk about 1 billion flyers, whether it's domestic flying or international flights. And then, on the renewable energy, I think it was also mentioned by Hubert, we are going to be scaling up the renewable energy from the present level of generation of 150 gigawatts to close to 450 gigawatts in the next between 8 to 9 years. That means, let's say by the year 2030. So that's a phenomenal kind of leap and phenomenal kind of vision, that the country has for itself, and there are going to be tremendous opportunities, in the field of pollution control, in city development, in infrastructure, in aviation, in chemicals, and in whole lot of different sectors, that business is going to be, I think the present unfortunate serious situation that we've all got in front of us, it's all known to everyone, and we all just hope and pray that things do get better the sooner rather than later, because it's a big country, and any kind of pandemic has a very substantial impact on a human point of view, because we are a large and a densely populated country. Now, when you look at India, my own recommendation would be, for many years, I have lived and worked in Belgium, and I've also lived and worked in India. So a little bit of the understanding of both sides of the divide, both sides of the continent, is that you must do a proper business analysis or a market research or feasibility. I know that a lot of businessmen probably say, no, we don't want to talk about feasibility. We already know, about our own product or service or business. But I think my own recommendation will be, please do not shy away from doing it. Because you may spend a little bit extra to do that, but it will be much worth for you, and your business and your success, in the long run, if you do a proper analysis on that, Then, make sure that, also you do not shy away from enforcing any collaboration or association, with an ethical and equally minded, business entity or an individual, because once again, boots on the ground is an extremely important thing. You do not run India, sitting 5,000, 10,000 kilometers away. It has to be handled, locally, actually, So therefore, that's a very important, lesson that people should understand. I mean, I'm not saying that you don't send your own managers, but ultimately your objective should be to develop your team and your knowledge base and skills within India itself. So that's basically what we call boots on the ground. Then do ensure, also do not shy away to protect your IPR, your intellectual property, your technology, your knowledge, whether it's a product or a concept or a service. You should not shy away from it. I've seen, sometimes people think that it's very long and it's very bureaucratic as a process, and unfortunately it is. They are right. But please do not shy away from doing it. Because you must have that protection given to your product or technology, and if you think it's unique, and that will also help you eventually in developing your product in the market, and also to give it that special advantage in the local Indian market. Please also do your test marketing, because a test marketing will also help you, whether you are participating in any public procurement in India or even just going straight away on one-on-one as a private business. It will help you a lot. And I've seen many Belgian companies, and I'm not just talking about the big ones, but even the smaller ones, the SMEs, who consider this, they have a good product, a good concept, but they are shying away from, doing this. I do not want that they should think like that. There will be some challenges, but I think they should go, once they decide clearly and their top management has decided clearly to go, they should go for it, because it will help them in the long run, it will help them a lot. Like somebody mentioned, India is not for deciding your returns or maturity in the period of 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. No, it's a long-term mature market, and you have to look at it like this, and if you see the example of successful Belgian companies, whether it's Barco, whether it's Magato, whether it's Solvay or Umicore or so Becat and so many others, Picanol and Machine Boucherie and so many, and I can go, because a lot of them are members also, fortunately, of the Belgium Luxembourg Business Association, which I had. A lot of them, they came into the market maybe 15, 20, 30 years ago also. And you can imagine at that time things were even more challenging and difficult and bureaucratic. They decided to stay, and they built their local teams in India, and they decided to go through the challenges. But today, I can say that without exception, all of them are extremely happy of the kind of decision that they took, to stay in the market and to consider this as an important base for them, not just to serve the Indian market because it's a large domestic market, but also to use it as a leverage, as a hub to export products out of India to other markets around the globe, because you have the cost advantage of producing it in India, not just the labor arbitrage, which is important, but also the fact that, like somebody said, large English-speaking, knowledgeable, technically qualified manpower that we have. So you can produce world-class products out of India and supply to your markets, at a price which is lower than what you would do from, an expensive country. So do consider all these things extremely important in your mind. I have just a few words because of the time factor. I'll talk about BLBA, the organization head. Our objective is to strengthen the business and the economic relations between the Indian and the Belgian corporates, and also to provide a platform to Belgian entities entering into India, through which they can do either a network feature. We also do not certify anything which is legal from their point of view, but we provide them a platform, as an outreach and a networking platform, and that's very helpful sometimes, when you're entering into a new market, or a new country, And we do, huge number of events, we do about on an average 10 to 12 events in a year on very important subjects. It could be IPR, it could be, on real estate, it could be liquidity crisis, it could be CEO talk, leadership talks, that's also been a very interesting event of BLBA. And also, we do a lot of association with like-minded chambers, like the Indo-Belgium Luxembourg Chamber in Mumbai, the Indo-Netherlands Business Association, INBA, now it's called the IDCBS in Delhi, and also in Bangalore, and then also the Swedish Business Council, because a lot of the issues are common, for a lot of people, and so we do associate a lot with them to bring the issues which are of common interest, and also to give the maximum advantage to our members and the people who are interested, So that's what I wanted to say. And I also want to add on a note that not only my thanks to Chrysoline Monnier and also to Hubert, but also to Oliver Costa, Manan, Renaud Bertrand, and of course to my friend Stefan for an excellent presentation that they gave and an overview on the customs situation. Thank you very much, and please take forward the Q&As. Thank you, Hubert.
Thanks to you, and thanks to all our speakers for your presentation and your good advices on the Indian markets. We have a few questions that I will address to you. And the first question is to Mr. Kessen on the export of food products. So what are the main restriction regulation when it comes to food products? Knowing that Belgium exports especially beers and chocolate, but also some cookies and other kind of fruit or vegetable, whether they are frozen or processed. So what are the main restrictions or the regulation that we need to pay attention to?
So the main regulation that you always have to consult with your importer will be the Food Standards and Safety Authority of India. It's the counterpart of our Food Safety Agency in Belgium. And for every food product or beverage, you will always in advance have to require a license, import license from this license number from this Food Standard Authority, which will be asked by the importer. All this number you will find on every food product that is on the Indian market. So on every food product in a shop in India, you will always find the FSSAI license number. This is one that is always needs to be applied upfront before you export, because the Food Safety Authority, they can always ask you to send samples to see if they are appropriate to fit the market, the Indian market. Secondly, labeling requirements regarding food and beverage are very strict. There is like 13 different things that you need to put on your label. Many of them need to be there in advance, but like the MRP, so the final price in the shop, and the manufacture date and the date and expire date till, they can be put on a sticker on the food product after arriving in a customs warehouse. So this is a facility that the Indian customs give to people who import food products, that you can do certain, because it's almost impossible to know upfront what will be the end price of your product, given all the difficulties and the cost that you will have with your warehouse, with the transport to your end client, the basic customs duties. So in order to make sure that you can determine the right price, this can be done after entering the markets. So the main important thing, so the major thing that you need to adhere to is the labeling requirements and the asking of an import or a license with the Food Safety Authority in India before exporting.
You mentioned the samples, product samples. Usually there are some ease to send samples to a client abroad. Is there the same opportunity for India?
Unfortunately not. Samples are treated the same as are normal food products. There is only one exception, and that is for fair trades. But then these also, there is the Food Safety Authority. They have a special legislation only on samples, and there you will find all regulations that you need to adhere to when you want to send samples for a fair trade into India. So then there is a special, you have to put very there is to be notified. This is only for tasting, only for sampling, and they have to, and whatever you don't want to export again later back to Belgium, or which has not been given to your potential buyers or clients, they have to be destroyed there after the fair. So, but this is a different legislation. Otherwise, samples also from one private person to another is not allowed. It's always treated as normal foods. So no exemptions there.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. A question now for either Hubert or Manan or even Rajiv. What is the impact on the Chinese One Belt, One Road initiative on the region? Is there an impact on the Indian market, or is it just for the rest of the Asian continent?
Maybe I'll start with some elements, and I'll let Rajiv and Manan react maybe. So I would say that basically what happened is that the situation with China actually accelerates the willingness of India of achieving a regional trade economic partnership with the neighboring countries. We have seen this, of course, at the more highest level for discussion of trade agreements. But when you see, for example, with the vaccine diplomacy, India has been first considering the neighboring countries as the ones that should receive the vaccines and the drugs. So it's an illustration on how India at the geopolitical level would like to really achieve like a market with a common market with the neighboring countries, which could be tricky. Of course, I would say that, and I mentioned it also during my presentation, the fact that the country was depending on a lot of Chinese products to be self-reliant also is an illustration on how the situation is taken care of by the government, and the fact that all those schemes that Manan presented to increase the manufacturing aspects in India are actually a consequence, I would say, about the position of China regarding India in the broad. And we have seen a lot of multinational companies opening R&D centers or manufacturing sites within the country those last months, and part of it is also the results of the tension between China and India, and the fact that actually India is putting a lot on the table to be more competitive. Those are few elements, of course, and when you see also the relation with the Quad, etc., this is more on the military aspect. But of course, my Indian friends and have other views or other comments to bring to the table. So please feel free.
So I completely agree with Mr. Confident. In fact, last year, government has also amended the FDI regulations of India to say that FDI coming from any country which shares a land border with India requires prior approval from the government of India. So essentially, China has not been explicitly named, but that is what is essentially sought to be captured by virtue of this amendment in the regulations. And in fact, last year, government went to the extent of banning around 60 mobile phone applications in India run by Chinese companies.
Absolutely. I just wanted to add to the same point that Manan and Hubert said, because there has been, we have not been obviously a willing signatory to the One Belt One Road, and also there is a historical backdrop to the whole thing, but especially the last year, because of the border tension, one of the fallouts was that the cheap Chinese imports, of a lot of products, was sought to be discouraged from entering the Indian market for two reasons. One very simple reason, that those products can be very well made in India, and because of India took this initiative to say talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat, which basically means self-reliant India. So now, visible part of the public procurement, they're saying that 20% of all tenders will have to have a domestic content, and they want to actually discourage too much of the cheap imports, coming, and that also, coming from the SMEs, because so the government wants to encourage the SMEs to produce in the Indian market in order to replicate the products that can easily be replicated, which don't really require too much of, let's say, value scale inputs, The other thing is that there has also been a policy called the productivity-linked initiative or the productive-linked incentives. And for the moment, they have defined 13 sectors, including food processing, including large-scale electronic manufacturers, And when I talk about large-scale electronic manufacturers, smartphones come directly into that picture. If you know that Apple was producing through this company Foxconn for many years, and now there is an initiative for companies like Dixon and Foxconn to set up their manufacturing base also in India, and also Samsung to start producing these smartphones in India, and that will be a huge game changer also. And the incentives are ranging, depending on the fact that if you've done your investments or have you achieved some threshold kind of sales also. The incentives range from 3% to 12%. So that's the meaning of the productive linked incentive, which the government is encouraging, not just in the food processing sector, but also in the chemical sector and also in the large scale electronic. So I think a bit of that fallout is that they want a bit more of self-reliance, to produce the products in India, of the products that were earlier coming very cheaply inside. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you all for your inputs. Maybe to again Hubert, Manan, and Rajiv, a last question. How is the tech and startup scene in India? What are the cities that are more welcome to growing startups and to welcome also foreign startups? Hubert, we don't hear you.
Thank you, Chrysaline. So very good question. Actually, we didn't mention this trending aspect of the startup ecosystem of India. Of course, this very well-known Bangalore city is probably the main tech hub where you can find a lot of different startups over there. A lot of unicorns also have grown up over there. And you will have also this association called NASSCOM, which is the IT business sectorial association that is really looking to push the startups along with a public initiative called Startup India, really pushing the appearance of startups to the scene. It's really vibrant. We see also a lot of different mentorship program, a lot of investment promoting agencies like us also work closely with the different ecosystem to actually attract some of those startups. Some of them are really disruptive. So no, it's a really important nest for the startups, and it should be considered for venture capitalists, of business angels, or any big group here that would like to acquire some technologies or some promising startup, to have a look at the Indian market, because it's very vibrating sector. But probably Rajiv and Manan have much more information about the sector in itself. So please go ahead.
I quite agree with you, Hubert. Just I would like to only say that traditionally, whenever somebody used to talk about tech startups, it used to be thought about as Bangalore or let's say Mumbai or Delhi, But the penetration of internet and the fact that we are a large country with upcoming skills, and of course a lot of youth who are very active in particular economic and employment scale of the tech side, So therefore, now we have seen, particularly in the last 5 years, places like Hyderabad, places like Sikandrabad, places like Mangalore, and I'm not talking Bangalore, then Pune, then also the satellite towns of Delhi like Noida, Gurgaon, and even going as far as up to Meerut, we have seen that a lot of emerging hub activity, on the tech side, has happened there, So, and even in Calcutta, I've seen, on my recent visit, at least before the pandemic started last year, in the Salt Lake area of Calcutta, there's huge number of enterprising and business activity there. So it's really, at the moment, I would say it's really across the country. And there are, of course, excellent pockets, but you can consider this list of depending on the kind of thing that you want to do, you can look at, tier A and then tier B. And there is an excellent opportunities in tier B because there are a lot of state and provincial governments who are.
Rajiv, I think we lost the connection with you.
Can you hear me?
Sorry, we missed the last sentence.
No, I was just saying that there are a huge number of these other towns that have also come in, which I mentioned. So there, depending on the kind of tier A town or tier B town you want to go to, you have to make your own strategy. But a lot of tier B towns are giving a lot of incentives because the state governments and the provincial governments want to push more investments, in the hinterlands, of those places, So it's also something very worth considering, So Mickey, you can do a little bit of homework or even ask any questions, and I will be happy to revert to them on that.
Thank you. I think I won't take much of your time. We already far beyond the schedule, but I would like to thank you all again for your presentation and explanation. I think it was quite interesting for our attendees. And of course, I will pass along your PowerPoint presentation to the participants, so they are still free to contact you directly if there are more questions or they want to really start up their businesses in India. And again, thank you all, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.